All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about something that is radically changing how we think about making software. It's called vibe coding, and it's all about turning your ideas into actual apps, not with lines of complex code, but with, just words, the kind you use every single day.
So let's just start with this one big question. I mean, really think about it. What if you could build a functional application just by describing what you want it to do? No need for deep programming knowledge, no more wrestling with syntax, just a simple conversation between you and an AI. That's the incredible promise we're exploring today.
So, what is really behind this idea? Let's get into it and break down what vibe coding actually means.
At its core, vibe coding is this new way of working where you use AI to generate real, working code from simple, natural language instructions. The term itself was coined by AI researcher Andrej Karpathy. It really describes this whole new conversational workflow, where the developer's job totally shifts from writing every single line of code to just guiding the AI to help it build out their vision.
But vibe coding isn't just one thing. You can think of it more like a spectrum. On one end, you've got what you could call pure vibe coding. This is perfect for brainstorming and super fast prototyping. You know, those quick, throwaway weekend projects where speed is everything? And then, on the other end, you have responsible AI-assisted development. This is where the AI acts more like a pair programmer, working alongside a human developer who guides it, reviews the work, and, most importantly, owns the final code.
Okay, so we get what it is, but how does it actually work in practice? Let's take a look at the process, from that first little idea all the way to a fully functional application. On a small scale, it's this really tight conversational loop. You start by just describing your goal in plain English. The AI then generates some code. You run it, see what happens, and then you give it feedback. Maybe it worked, but hey, you want to add some error handling. You just tell the AI and it refines the code for you. You just keep repeating that little loop until the function is exactly what you want.
Now, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. Building a whole app. You can start with one big prompt that describes your entire vision. The AI generates the whole thing, the user interface, the backend logic, everything. From there, you just refine it with more prompts. A human expert gives it a once-over to validate it, and then, boom, with a single click, you deploy it. It's the entire lifecycle.
So you can see, this process is a pretty fundamental shift from how software has been built for decades. Let's put vibe coding and traditional coding side by side so we can really see the difference. First off, the developer's role is completely transformed. In the old model, the developer is the architect, the implementer, the person manually writing every line. With vibe coding, their role is much more like a guide or a prompter or a refiner. They're directing the AI to get the result they want instead of getting bogged down in all the little implementation detail. This changes the entire way we talk to the machine. The main input isn't precise code with all its rigid syntax anymore. Instead, it's just natural language, the way you and I talk, through prompts and conversational feedback. And of course, this shift has a massive impact on speed. Traditional development is methodical, which can mean it's slow. Vibe coding, especially for just getting a first version or a prototype off the ground, can be unbelievably faster. You can literally go from an idea to a working model in a fraction of the time.
And maybe the biggest change of all is the learning curve. Look, traditional programming has a notoriously steep learning curve, right? It can be a huge barrier for a lot of people. Vibe coding has the potential to seriously lower that barrier, making it possible for a much wider audience of creators to actually build software. Okay, so this all sounds incredibly powerful, but how do you actually start? Let's look at the tools you can use, because depending on what your goal is, there are a few different ways you can go.
Google actually has a whole toolkit designed for this, and the trick is just picking the right tool for the job. You can think of it like a ladder of complexity. You might start with AI Studio for a quick prototype, then move up to Firebase Studio when you need a real full-stack application. Or you could integrate Gemini Code Assist right into a professional developer's existing workflow.
So let's start with that first one, Google AI Studio. You should think of this as your go-to for rapid prototyping. It is the absolute fastest way to get from a simple idea to a live, shareable web app, a lot of times with just one single prompt.
And here's a perfect example. The first prompt is so simple. Create a startup name generator app. From that, the AI builds a live preview right there. And notice the follow-up prompts. They're just conversational tweaks, like changing the background color or the feel of a button. And then, once you're happy, you just deploy it with one click. It's the entire creative cycle, and it's all driven by natural language.
Okay, next up is Firebase Studio. This is where you go when your idea gets a little bigger. It's built for making robust, production-ready applications that need stuff like a database, user accounts, and authentication.
With Firebase Studio, the prompt gets way more ambitious. We're not just asking for a simple little tool. We're describing a full-blown recipe-sharing app with user accounts. The key difference here is that the AI doesn't just generate code. It actually generates an app blueprint. It's a plan you can review and tweak before any of the final code is written. That gives you so much more control over the final product.
And finally, we've got Gemini Code Assist. Now, this is not about building an app from scratch. This is that AI pair programmer we were talking about, made for professional developers. It lives right inside their code editor and just helps them write better code faster.
So here, the conversation is happening at a much lower level. A pro developer isn't describing a whole app. They're asking for a very specific function, like one to read a CSV file using a certain library. The AI is basically an expert assistant, handling all the boilerplate stuff so the developer can stay focused on the really complex logic.
So we've defined vibe coding, we've seen how it works, and we've looked at the tools. Now for the most important part. Why does any of this matter? What's the big picture impact of all this?
The really crucial takeaway here is that vibe coding isn't just another tool or some passing fad. It is a fundamental shift in how we create software. It's changing the very relationship between the person with the idea and the computer that builds it.
And the impact is really two-sided. First, by lowering that technical barrier, it's democratizing creation. It's empowering this whole new wave of people to build things without needing to be programming experts. And second, for the people who already are experts, it's a massive force multiplier. It automates all the tedious parts of coding and frees them up to focus on what really matters: creative problem solving.
This tech puts an unbelievable amount of creative power into our hands, letting us turn ideas into reality through simple conversation. Which really just leaves us with one inspiring question to think about. What will you build first?